Okay, welcome boys and girls. What we're going to do is we're going to review our lesson from today, which was lesson 1.11, where we had to take a numerical expression and find the value. Now, when we're finding the value of a numerical expression like the one we have here, we need to make sure that we follow something called the order of operations. We have to make sure that we follow this order of operations, otherwise we might not get the correct answer to the expression. Right? In this order of operations, the first rule tells us that we first have to solve any part of the expression that is in parentheses. Some expressions will have parentheses, some will not. This example has parentheses. The next thing that we need to do is we need to either multiply and divide. And the final part is we need to add and subtract, which means when we see an expression, if there's parentheses, we would have to do the parentheses part of the expression first. After we've completed the parentheses part, then we would need to multiply or divide before we would add or subtract. The multiplying and dividing takes priority over adding and subtracting in a numerical expression. I'll show you some examples and I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we're following our rules for the order of operations for this problem, we first check the numerical expression. We see that there are parentheses here. We solve whatever is in those parentheses first, and we know that 7 times 1 gets us 7. And what I want you to do is I want you crossing out the 7, the times sign, the multiplication sign, and the 1, along with the parentheses. And what I want you to do is I want you to bring down whatever has not been used in the other part of the expression. We didn't use the 8, and we didn't use this minus sign, so we're just going to bring this down right here. And now we have a new expression. Our expression now is 8 minus 7, which is fairly simple to solve. 8 minus 7 is going to give us 1. That means the value of this numerical expression, 8 minus, and then the 7 times 1 in parentheses, the answer to that question, the value is 1. I'm going to show you another example. Here's another example. We have 5 minus 2 plus 12 divided by 4. There's a couple more steps in this numerical expression. But what we need to do is we need to follow our rule. What we did today is we said parentheses would have to come first. Then what we would have to do is we'd have to multiply or divide after that. And then finally, we would have to add and subtract. Now, looking at this problem here, this numerical expression, we notice that there are no parentheses. If there are no parentheses, we need to move on. And we check to see if there's any multiplication and division in this problem. I notice right here that there is a division part to this numerical expression. Right? Therefore, I need to do this division part of the expression before I use this subtraction sign or this addition sign. And what am I dividing? I'm going to be dividing the numbers that surround that division symbol. I'm going to divide 12 divided by 4. 12 divided by 4 I know is 3. I want you to cross out that 12, I want you to cross out the division sign, I want you to cross out that 4. We're done with that part of the problem, and what you're going to do, like we did in the previous step, is bring down whatever you did not use. I'm bringing down the plus sign, the 2, the minus sign, and the 5. And I'm left with a new expression. I have 5 minus 2 plus 3. What I was telling you kids in class today was that if you're left with a subtraction sign and addition sign, you don't have to do the addition first. You don't want to do the addition first. If it's just subtraction and addition left next to each other here, alright, you read it just like a sentence left to right. Even though the A is coming before the S on our chart here, if it's these cousins, as I called them in class, left, you read it left to right. So this part of the problem, what we do right now is we do the 5 minus the 2 first, and we get 3. We cross out the 5, the minus, and the 2, and we bring down the addition symbol and the 3, which we haven't used. At this point, we're left with a very basic expression, 3 plus the 3, and we know is 6. Therefore, the value to this problem is 6. Now, if we did not follow this order of operations, if we did 5 minus 2 first, which would be 3, And if we added the 12 after that, we would get 15. And we would have to take the 15, divide that by 4. We're not going to get the right answer. It's not going to work out. That's why it's so important to make sure that we follow those order of operations. I'm going to show you another example. Okay, now this expression looks a little different from the other expressions that we were just practicing. Now, when you see an expression like this, once again, you have to go to the order of operations that we need to make sure that we follow. Now, I included these order of operations right here on the side. It's something that you need to make sure that you memorize, but I included them here on the side first for this example. So, once again, we look at our expression, we check to see if there are any parentheses. Here we have parentheses, and we actually have a couple steps inside the parentheses. So once we see that there are parentheses, we know that we have to solve this part of the problem first. Now, inside these parentheses, we also have to still follow these rules of the order of operations. You have an addition part to the problem, and you have a multiplication part to the problem. If I look here, I see that my multiplication takes priority over my addition. I need to do the multiplication part before I add. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply the 6 times the 6, which I know is 36. I take that 36, I bring down that plus sign, I get rid of the 6 times the 6, and I bring down the 10. Now, really, it's this 10 and 36 are still inside the parentheses. We're not done with that. So I bring down the minus 4, I bring down the times 10, and I'm left with a new expression. In this new expression that I have in front of me, I still have parentheses. I still need to complete the other part of this expression that's inside the parentheses, because whatever's in parentheses takes priority over subtraction and multiplication that's on the outside of them. And I take the 10 and the 36, and I would add, and I would get 46 as my sum. Once I've done that, I want to cross out the 10, the plus sign, and the 36 along with the parentheses, so I know I'm not using any of those numbers or any of those symbols at any other point in my next step. I bring down the minus 4, I bring down the multiplication symbol, and I bring down the 10. And I'm left with a new expression. I have 46 minus 4 times 10. This is a whole new expression that you've created. I go back to my chart and I take a look. There's no parentheses anymore. There is multiplication and there is subtraction. According to my order of operations, I have to do the multiplication before I do the subtraction part. The multiplication part includes the 4 times the 10. I know the 4 times 10 is going to equal 40. I get rid of the 4, I get rid of the multiplication sign, and I get rid of the 10. I bring down the subtraction symbol, and I bring down the 46 because I have not used those parts yet. And I'm left with a very basic expression, 46 minus 40, which would give me a value of 6. Therefore, this big, long expression that we had up here, 10 plus 6 times 6, which are in parentheses, minus the 4 times the 10, the value of this expression equals 6. Okay, now here's our final example. This was actually an example from class that a few of you had a little difficult time with. We have 4 plus 49 in parentheses minus the 4 times the 10. Okay, once again, we have to go through and we have to follow our order of operations. We take a look, are there parentheses to answer first? Yes, there are. We have the 4 plus the 9. We have to answer this part of the numerical expression first. 49 and 4 added together gives us a sum of 53. I need to eliminate this part of the numerical expression so I don't use it in any other part in this next step. I bring down the minus sign, I bring down the 4, and I bring down the multiplication and the 10. I know it's very tempting to try to do the other parts of these numerical expressions in your head, but you have to make sure that you follow these steps and you bring each number down and rewrite the expression, because I've seen it many times. People try to combine steps in their head and then they make their mistakes. They don't find the proper value for the expression. I brought down the minus, the 4, the multiplication symbol, and the 10. And now I have a new expression here. I'm left with subtraction and multiplication. Looking at my order of operations, I could see that the multiplication has to come before the subtraction. That means I need to take this 4 and this 10 and I need to multiply it together. And I know that 4 times the 10 gets me 40. I cross out the 4, I cross out the multiplication symbol, and I cross out the 10, and I bring down the minus and the 53. And I'm left with a very basic expression, 53 minus 40, which would give me a value of 13. Therefore, the value of this entire expression would be 13, because I followed the order of operations. Okay, now finally here's a problem for you to try on your own. You have the expression 9 minus 3 times the 2 in parentheses plus the 8. What you could do right now is you could press the pause button, try to find the value of this expression. Once you found the value of this expression, press the play button to see if you found the proper value. Okay, so this is how you would solve it. In the order of operations, I know that parentheses has to come first. So the 3 times the 2 is inside these parentheses, and I know 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. I'm crossing out the 3, the times, and the 2 along with the parentheses, and I'm bringing down the 9, the minus, the plus, and the 8. Now what I'm left with is a subtraction and addition problem. Now what I was calling these two symbols in class, the subtraction and the addition, I was calling them cousins. And I say when these cousins are together, nobody is more important than the other. You read it from left to right, just like a sentence. So I would not do this 6 plus 8 first. Since the minus and the addition are left together, I would read it left to right, and I would solve 9 minus the 6, and I would get 3. Eliminate the 9 minus the 6, and I bring down the plus symbol along with the 8, and I'm left with a basic expression of 3 plus 8, and I know 3 plus 8 will give me 11. Therefore the value to this entire expression would be 11. And that is how we follow the order of operations.